Hey, welcome to the Roasting Shack. How you doing? I'm Scott, and I'm here today to talk about coffee. Here at the Roasting Shack, we value coffee, and we also know that the workhorse of America and many coffee enthusiasts is actually an auto drip. Why would you use auto drip? Well, it's convenient, right? And in the end, that's where you get it. There's a million other different brewing methods. But auto drip really is in almost everybody's house. So how can you maximize your auto drip experience, right? And I think there's a couple tips I can give you, and that's the whole point of this, is just to give a little helpful tip. It's roasting day for us, so I had a little extra time in here as I was prepping, and I wanted to go over what you could or could not do to make your auto drip experience more better. I know the grammar experts are coming after me on that one. All right, so let's start off and let's be awoken with some coffee though. So, that's my Mexican La La Ja, and that is a phenomenal cup of coffee. So, let's get our morning started. Let's talk about it. So, auto drip. Your auto drip maker is going to have a couple components. First component, reservoir. Second component, your heating element. Some heating elements are better than others and can impact taste. But we're going to hit just the major things that you could do with just an average auto drip. But some auto drips control the temp and don't allow the water to get up to boiling before they dump it onto your grounds, which does make a huge difference on taste. So if you have one of those auto drip makers that control the heat of the water before it hits your grounds, so it's never boiling, it's like, setting anywhere from between 190 to 205 degrees, probably tops, then good for you. That's already a plus in your hat, as far as like you're already one step closer to having a better coffee experience in the morning, because it can impact whether it burns your coffee or doesn't burn it, or flavor profiles that you may prefer over others. The temperature of your water does matter. But I would say on a whole, we're not going to worry about that too much. So now we move up from the hot water. It comes over. How that water gets dispersed onto your coffee grounds matters. If it's a sprinkler kind of impact where it's controlled and it gets everything kind of evenly, kind of does a pre-wet as it's going through the infusion process, as the water's coming in there, it's doing a nice even sprinkle pattern over it, over your grounds, and then is pushing through your filter at a good timed rate, so it's not getting over extracted in your coffee pot. That's another good plus. But is it needed? Does it make a difference on taste? I do believe it makes some small differences that matter. But for the average auto drip person, I don't think you can control that. So we're not going to focus on it. But if you have a unit that has that, you will have an added advantage to get better taste. So we go into the filter. You're going to hear a lot of different opinions about filters, coffee filters, metal versus, because they're environmentally friendly. And then you have paper, which I think are equally environmentally friendly. Do they have a difference? I think paper makes a better cup and then cleaner, right? You don't have that kind of residue in the bottom of your cup when you're done. There's not as many floating particles. I personally use a metal filter and a paper filter. So I like really clean cups, and to clean it out, it's really easy with that setup. But I would say filter is more on your preference level. You will get a cleaner cup, in my opinion, using paper. And to be honest, you can recycle those in your garden. You can, there's a lot of things you can do with a paper, like the coffee grounds and everything. You can just throw them in your garden or plants or other things, and they are a great source of nitrogen. So there you go there. But I do think, as far as quality of cup, go paper. So then we go from the filter unit into the pot or carafe. Carafe is going to be better, especially because it's pulling it, the hot water goes in there, the brewed coffee, and then it's the heating source is just keeping it heated within the carafe, right? And that prevents quinic acids from building up, because the difference between a craft that is just self-heating based on the hot water that went in there, the coffee, versus it going dripping into the pot sitting on a burner. That burner, once you pour your first cup of coffee and then it just sets on that burner, it will take all those good tasting acids. And I'm not talking, everybody goes, oh, coffee is acidic. It's not, actually. It's really not. It's almost the same as a banana in pH level. So, and that's across the spectrum. So when people go, oh, this is a low acidity one versus this high acidity, I'm willing to debate with you on that one. But let's not go into the science of that. Let's just talk coffee. So now it's sitting on there. These acids, when you taste a coffee that you like, that means that your palate's picking up different little acids, right, that have flavor notes that are from things that you have experienced in your life. So you might really prefer one over another. That's great. But if you leave it sitting on that hot pot, it is going to heat those acids, and it'll change them to something called quinic acid. It breaks down good tasting acids and breaks them down into quinic acid, which can cause upset stomachs. That's where people start going, well, coffee doesn't set well with me. And normally, I'm telling you, if you left that pot on your brewer, or you go to some cafe that just has a pot sitting on the heat plate, those are all going to be high in quinic acid. Probably won't taste that good. Are going to have off notes. They're going to taste burned, maybe bitter, maybe even pungent. And it's not going to be a good experience, but it's also it could hurt your stomach if you're sensitive to that. I was in the Army, and I think I worked through my sensitivities on that, but I'm telling you, it does impact your experience, right? So how can you fix that? You just turn off the heat plate after it's done brewing, and then you're good to go. So anyway, that's my down and dirty version on how to maximize your auto drip experience. The things that I would do is buy fresh coffee, get a local roaster like me or somebody in your neighborhood, right, that takes pride in their coffee, puts a date on when it's roasted, so you have a fresh roasted coffee. Make sure you have good bags. So if you get a bag without an air seal on there, can you see that? That's a one-way valve. If it doesn't have that on there, you have stale coffee. I mean, they've let that set out so long that there's no CO2 release, that it's not fresh roasted, definitely, and it's not letting out, releasing anything from it if it has a buildup. So if it's fresh roasted and you put it in a bag like this, it would explode it without a one-way valve. So that's how you know it's fresh roasted. But the other thing is just, how do you know it's a quality bag? It's because it's sealed inside from any moisture, any air. So this is a good maximizing bag. The one step up would be like nitro sealed or something, but that, if you've got that bag, and it's good until you open it. I mean, like, these things would be good for like 6 weeks without any taste different, if not longer, probably up to 3 months, without you opening it. But as soon as you open it, oxygen is exposing to it, and oxygen oxidizes your coffee. Okay, moisture is allowed in, right? That's another big puller that pulls things out of the bean, right? And so we want to minimize that. We don't want it in a hot spot, like we don't want it near a stove or in a warm area, right? We want it room temperature, so you're going to be sitting between 60 and 75 degrees, maybe high end 80. But you don't want a heat source that's heating it in any way, shape, or form. And then UV light. UV light pulls a lot of stuff out of coffee, so you don't want a clear container, right? So I recommend the Aeroscape. Aeroscape containers are great. They got a valve that pushes and minimizes oxygen moisture damage. They're sealed, they're insulated, so they shield from UV, and they're super easy to use. So there would be my selling pitch. We do sell them. Aeroscape is a great container. If you got a better container, let me know. I've never found anything that worked better, and trust me, I got a lot of coffee garbage because I'm a geek on this stuff. So Aeroscape, I'd recommend. Check it out. So you're keeping your coffee fresh, and you have grinder. I'm going to tell you, get a burr grinder, just a basic burr grinder. Doesn't have to be super sexy. And that you're going to grind fresh every morning. Get whole beans, because if you don't get whole beans, as soon as you open this bag, all those good tastes from that fresh roasted will be gone in about 4 days. Because those grounds are so fine that any oxygen that hits it just annihilates all those good acidic qualities, right, that are in the coffee that you like. But you'll find your taste profile does that really quick. But if you have whole bean in there that's fresh roasted, it can handle a lot more exposure to oxygen without impacting your flavor for, you probably get a week and a half, 2 weeks out of that without noticing like an extreme drop in your taste from your coffee. So grind matters. And so just any grinder will matter. So even if you're doing blade grind, the only issue with that is it doesn't really do a good job of uniform grind. And then pot to pot, you're going to have variations. Even if you have the same bean, even if it's freshly ground, you'll get clumps and different things with a blade. But if you use a bird grinder, you're going to have a generally a good size, uniform size of your grounds. And then the beautiful part about a bird grinder that will enhance your experience is that if, let's say, it's a little weak, or you're like, man, I wish I had more flavor in this, well, you can go click, 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 make it a little finer, and then you can zero in on that coffee and make it change the taste, literally. And same thing is if you're like, wow, this is too powerful. Oh, this tastes bitter. Something's wrong with this coffee. It might not be wrong with the coffee. It might be your grind is too fine. Click, 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 make it a little coarser, and poof, it just falls into a nice spot. And granted, this takes some experimental time, right, to say, okay, I did one pot this way, I didn't like it. Okay, now we're going to do a pot tomorrow we're going to go with my adjustments and see what it tastes like. But once you zero in a grind on maybe a coffee bean that you like, you can just remember that setting. And that's the beautiful part of bird grinders. All right. And for an auto drip, all you need is just a basic bird grinder. So with that, fresh roasted coffee, grinding it fresh, those two things will change your world on auto drip, regardless of what auto dripper you have, right? And then I would say just don't overheat your coffee once it is brewed, and that is just turn off the pot if you have a pot. If you have a craft, I mean, you're already good, but don't overheat your coffee after you've brewed it. Just turn it off, and that way you're not continuing to burn, and your taste profiles will stay closer to that original cup of coffee you poured out in the morning. All right, with that, I am going to go do some small video clips every Saturday before we roast. And this is what we chose to do this morning. When I say we, the Roasting Shack crew is actually on its way. My volunteers that helped me out. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. I hope you guys are happy coffee people. Try us out on the Roasting Shack. We have so many good coffees. We are way above our competitors on what we offer. And we offer any roast level, so we're roast to order. Nobody else does that. So with that, coffee enthusiasts or just coffee appreciator, don't hate, appreciate good coffee, right? I will talk to you next week, and I hope this finds you guys in a good state of mind, enjoying your morning, trying to get woke in a good way.